Hey guys, as you can tell, it's me, Maimuna. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do a continuation of my series. This is going to be the second part, and we're going to be talking about culture clash. Culture clash. How to get used to a way of life that you've never known. Now, whilst I do this video, it's going to be really casual. I'm going to be doing my makeup. You guys like my makeup videos, so I'm going to do something a bit interesting on my face, on my eyes mainly. I've done my base. I'm gonna play around with stuff, maybe add some color, who knows. I'm feeling some blue, I'm feeling some pink. So again, like my previous video, today's video is going to be about South Asians, us brown people who live in the West, Western South Asians, and how we, most commonly being associated with brown culture, we often experience serious culture clashes within our own culture and even within our families, or when we get married to like other brown people. Which is strange, huh? You would assume that if you're the same kind of like race as someone, you'd have the same culture, but actually that's not the case. I've tried to like break it all down and try to like categorize all of these different cultures we have into three distinct cultures. I think all of us can unanimously agree that most of us Asians fall into at least one, if not two, or even all of these three categories. Also, bit of a disclaimer, this is theory, okay? This is not fact. This is theoretical stuff. These are just ideas. You might not agree with them, and that's entirely your prerogative, but this is just what I believe. Let me just ease myself in with some makeup before I just like jump into the video. That's what you've probably come here for anyways, some makeup and some tea spilling of the tea, of the chai. So yeah, I'm gonna go in with like this palette. I'm gonna do like a transition shade. So the first of this category is the traditional South Asians. You know the type, right? Tight families, respect your elders no matter what they say. Women are usually not expected to work. Instead, they are expected to stay at home, cook, clean, yada yada yada. The parents in the family have very strong roles. So like the mother-in-law tends to be like the boss. She's like the boss of the clan, and if there are daughter-in-laws, they're supposed to do as she says. And then the father-in-law is like the boss of the sons, and like all the sons like pay a certain amount of money to him, like a tax. So that's like normal. That's what you find in most South Asian, Pakistani, Bengali, Indian cultures, even from back home. So the second one is something that's just recently popped up in the UK, and it's Islamic culture. So this is also a culture. It's not exclusively a religion. You can have South Asians who fit into that culture more than they fit into the traditional one. So you'll have South Asians where the women, they are very like strict about modesty, about praying. Even the men, they go to the mosque, you know, everybody prays on time, everybody fasts on Ramadan, they read the Quran. Like the family aspect, so like the husband's family, like living with in-laws and like doing stuff for them is not obligatory. It's just seen as rewarding. So if you like go over to your in-laws house and you like cook for them, or you know, you do stuff, it's seen as seeking reward. It's not an obligation. So it's like thwab faibo or swab miliga. Women don't have to work. They don't have to cook or clean either. Basically all they're meant to do is listen to the husband, and the husband's main obligation is to provide for his wife or wives, and he can have like up to 3 if he wants to. And then the last one is another very recent one that's popped up and is quite a common one actually, and that one is westernized South Asian culture. So this is the one that all of the people from back home probably think we all follow. They probably think we're all like super westernized. Basically, this group of people, to them, religion and culture is not super important. I mean, it's secondary. the most significant thing for this group is to integrate into Western society. So they prefer having their freedom and independence above any cultural or religious restriction. They like to think that men and women are equal, and they expect both parties to work after marriage. They both want to pay for everything equally, so they don't mind breaking the rules of culture, and they don't mind breaking religious rules if it means that they'll be more accepted by like their peers. And I feel like that group is quite a big group of its own, and it's quite a group that's kind of not included or spoken about much, but it makes quite a vast group of young people, especially young South Asians. So like I said, this is just a theory, it's not factual by any means. Like, you cannot group people into just one group. Let's be real, most of us are a mixture of the two or three, what we would define as a culture merger. A culture merger. Being a part of a culture merger would especially be true if you have parents who both follow fundamentally different cultures. For example, you could be the daughter of a South Asian imam, right? But your mom could be a white Christian Western woman, okay? So what does this make you? You might end up being a Muslimah who prays and fasts. You're like devout and religious, but you also want to go out every Friday night and chill out with your friends, and you want to work and you want to pay half the rent with your husband. That could be you. As you can see from my example, culture used to be something a group of people followed a long time ago, but nowadays it's a lot more complicated. Culture is unique to everybody now, so it doesn't matter who you are. The culture you follow may be something completely unique to you. That's especially the case here in the UK. So because everybody follows a culture that's unique to them, having like a culture clash with like your significant other or their family is actually very, very common these days, and it's like even like expected, if I'm honest. So when this happens, like when you have that like clash, people will either do one of two things. So they'll either separate because they can't see eye to eye with each other's differences, or they will try and understand the differences, and they'll kind of like rearrange their views and try to accommodate each other. So let's pick two people. Let's pick a Western South Asian person, and let's pick a traditional South Asian person. Now let's assume that both of these two types get married. So this combination of like West meets East is actually really common. The biggest difference between them is that the traditional person is more family orientated, and the Western one values their independence. So that's the biggest difference. So you'll find that the traditional person, they have very structured ideas about gender roles, and they would most likely want the wife to stay at home, whereas the Western person would ideally want both parties to work together on being more independent, like buying a house, setting up a family. The traditional person likes to be somewhat dependent on their own families, like their mom and dad and sisters and brothers, or even their family back home, and they would prefer to visit them or like try and help them with like money or tasks. The Westernized person, they equally value friends as well as they do family, and they would prefer to meet both friends and family just to catch up and like have a good time. They wouldn't go over to say their mom's house and like help her out with the cooking. They'd more likely go over and just like have a chat. You okay, ma? How you doing? The traditional person is more likely to send money back home or give money to the family, whereas the Westernized person, they would think it's not necessary to do that. The biggest issue they would face is that the Westernized person, they would feel a lot more restricted around the traditional person because of all of the obligations and the cultural norm. They would want to try and break free from that, but the traditional person would end up feeling as though the Westernized person is like they're trying too hard to impress people they don't care about, and so they've kind of lost sense of who they are. Okay, so now let's try a different combination. So let's try taking a traditional person and pairing them with a religious person. Now, this is also quite a common combination these days and also quite challenging. And it's challenging because of the conflicting internal beliefs both of these two people have. And it's mainly to do with how they view each other's role in the marriage. So South Asian culture, they tend to believe that men and women are both obligated to the husband's side of the family, whereas in Islamic culture, men or women are only obligated to each other, and their responsibility of looking after the parents falls on the shoulders of the child. And so the responsibility of the wife's parents doesn't fall on the husband's shoulders, it falls on the wife's because it's her parents. You get me? So the traditional person in the marriage, they might be more focused on the husband's side and they might feel more obligated to them, whereas the religious person would want to focus on their own parents. In Islamic culture, helping like the traditional person's spouse is seen more as a reward. You don't do it because you have to do it, you do it because you'll get reward, you know. You'll do it because it's rewarding and it's encouraged as a good thing. It's not like absolutely obligatory, you have to. Whereas the traditional person would be like, no, this is not a reward, this is an obligation, you have to do it all the time. So like, for example, let's say the wife is religious and the husband's traditional, and the wife just wants to go over to her in-laws and like cook dinner for them when she feels like it, when she feels like she wants to gain reward, or if they need help. Okay, the traditional husband would be like, no, you're supposed to go over to them like every day or like every 2 days because you have to, because that's the culture, because you're expected to do that, you know. And so similarly, let's say it's a religious husband, he's less likely to give money back home to his traditional wife's parents because he doesn't think they need it unless they're like super poor. He doesn't think it's an obligation on him, it's just done out of reward. Whereas the wife, the traditional wife, would be like, this is an obligation, like you have to send money back home, like you have to like help my parents. The traditional person would prefer to spend time with his or her family whenever they can, whereas the religious person would rather, in their free time, if they have it, go to a mosque and spend time with other religious people who have like similar views to them. The religious person would get annoyed by like cultural superstitions the traditional person has, and they would try to break those down, whereas the traditional person would think that the religious person is just being a bit extreme and it's like not necessary. Like, let's move on to the last pairing, which is the Western South Asian with a religious South Asian. Now this one is really challenging. Like, probably, I think this is probably the most challenging out of all of these groups, simply because of how different these two people will be. One of the problems they may have is the Western person doesn't mind having friendships from the opposite gender. Like, they think it's normal. Like, it's like in Western society, like you can have, if you're a girl, you can make friends with guys if you want, and if you're a guy, you can make friends with girls if you want. That's like a normal thing, right? But a religious person will actually find this offensive. They'll be like, no, you cannot see your friend who's a guy. No way, Jose. The religious person may think that the wife has to listen to the husband, whereas the Western person believes that both parties need to be heard, not just the husband being heard. The wife needs to be heard as well. A Western person might be more open-minded about certain people. So let's say people from other religions, other backgrounds, people who fall into the LGBTQ category. A religious person would most likely not be as open-minded to these groups of people. A Western person may not pray. They may not follow like basic Islamic practices. They may say that Islam is in the heart. That's all it is. It doesn't matter if you practice it or not. This would annoy the religious person who thinks that the Western person isn't taking their religion seriously and is just being lazy and not following proper rules. Like I said, people who are in that Western culture group, they like their independence, okay? They value that above everything. They will find that the religious person is too restrictive, which hinders their freedom and independence. The religious person may believe that a wife's income is hers only and she can do whatever she wants. She doesn't have to share it with anyone. Whereas a Western person believes that no, everyone should pay equally and the wife's money is not hers and she should split the bill. May entertain the idea of having more than one wife, but to somebody with a Western mindset, this is equivalent to committing like the worst crime possible. As you can tell, that's a difficult one in my opinion. People don't just fall into one of these categories, they tend to be a mix. So especially nowadays, makes it so interesting but also so difficult to kind of hash things out if there's any misunderstandings or if there's any like difficulties. And it's not just about the person, it can also be about the family and the family's beliefs. Like you might be married to somebody who has a certain belief. You're living with your husband's family and let's say your husband has traditional views, but he might have a brother who has Islamic views and then sisters who have like westernized views. That could be something that you are in, like a situation. And there might even be disagreements and misunderstandings. So if you've experienced any of these culture clashes that I've just described with your significant other or even people you know, you're not alone, okay? It's perfectly normal, many of us do. I'm gonna use this mascara. My sister-in-law gifted this to me. It's amazing. It's from Maybelline and it's the Falsies Lash Lift Mascara. And I'm just gonna put this on my eyelashes. Yeah, this mascara is amazing. It's like so nice. One thing I forgot to do was I forgot to darken my outer corner. Yeah, I really like how that looks. So it's important to have like discussions like this before marriage and even after marriage. So like, what do you follow? What's your fundamental belief? Like, and it's good to pick or be with somebody who has like a similar pattern to you. If you do end up with somebody who doesn't have that, that's not bad. That's not the end of the world. You just have to open your mind. And you have to kind of open yourself to the idea of understanding something else and getting used to a new way of life and a new way of thinking. That's it. I mean, I don't have anything else to say. This is my makeup. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I did want to put some eyelashes on. My sister-in-law got me these eyelashes as well. She's so sweet. She knows I love this stuff. But I just can't be bothered to put them on. Also, I need to work out. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the second segment to my series. Culture Clash, how to get used to a culture you've never known. And if you like these kinds of videos, please give me a thumbs up and comment down below what you think. And stay tuned for more. Thank you so much for watching.